Hey everyone, this is Kim O'Neill from the Every Day is a New Day podcast and live show, and you're listening to the Going North podcast with the hilarious Dom Brightman. Be sure to subscribe to his show so you don't miss any episodes, and remember, every day is always a new day.
And today on the Going North podcast, where we bring you some super special, awesome humans from around the globe. Today's another one of those occasions, baby. It's no different. Gotta thank my man Nathan for hooking me up with this wonderful gentleman right here. Because my goodness, folks, my goodness, like 13 years in online advertising, folks. Like that alone, it's like 13 years in online advertising. Like, shoot, I thought this was just like 3 years ago when Facebook kept showing me these random ads out of nowhere. Like, nah, fam, it goes way back further than that. And he's also an author as well as a course creator, baby. And he's got all sorts of great content to take you to the next level and advance. So let's give it up for the fabulous DS himself, David Schloss. How you doing today, sir?
I appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Man, it is definitely a pleasure, man. Like the new MBA, man, and just checking out some of your backstory of how you got into the biz and how you really burned your boats, and now you're here in 2021 with all the magic that is still happening.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So for those who don't know you yet and been living under seven rocks, who is the delightful David Schloss himself?
Yeah, so I got started in the business in 2007. I started from my college dorm room back when Facebook was in its infancy. It was probably anywhere from a year to a couple of years old because not everyone had access to it, even when I was in college back then. And so I was fortunate enough to dig my fingers into this gigantic pie that it is now, but back when no one really knew about it. And it wasn't the first thing I dove into. I was originally trying to learn all sorts of different ways to make money online because that's exactly what I searched on Google at the time. I was like, I got to do something because I'm a broke college student like many of them are now. And I just need to do something, right? I need to put some food on my table. I need to pay for these books. Like everything was just getting out of hand. And so that rabbit hole that I dug myself into led to a post where a gentleman, I wish I would remember his name, said, social advertising is the future. You got to learn how to advertise on social networks and make it work for your business. And at the time, the only other network that was a social network that had ads was MySpace. And so I'm like, okay, well, Facebook just opened up theirs to the public and I'm going to dive right in. Literally the day that I was looking into running any sort of ads, I think it was like a day or two later, Facebook decided to open to the public for advertising. And so the timing was perfect. It was back then where they didn't really have many rules. You could have put something up for $5. It could have been someone else's link, could have been an affiliate link. It didn't matter. And I just took that opportunity to try things out. I was reading about affiliate marketing. I was reading about SEO and web design and web development and blogging and all this stuff. So I'm like, I got to try everything and just see which one I enjoy the most. Now, social networks and social advertising in general didn't really make me any money until probably about a year later. I actually first got my first bigger check, I would say. Any college student who makes $1,000 for something is going to go crazy. And so my first big win was probably about a year in because a real estate brokerage firm was like, we want to run some ads. Do you have any ideas? I mean, they always heard about SEO and all this other stuff, but then I mentioned, why don't you run some ads on Facebook? It was nowhere near where it is today, where you had the type of options for targeting and different ways to advertise. It was basically, you just advertise on the right-hand side of the entire site, and that's it. There was barely any location targeting or anything. It was just advertised to everybody. And of course it didn't work as well. But the great thing that sort of came up from that experience was that now I know what it's like to do it for someone else. And so I took that as the opportunity of, I was making money from doing some SEO and web design for people because that's what they wanted. But I would always introduce social advertising to people. Hey, you should run some ads on Facebook. You should run some ads on Facebook. And all the questions were, what's Facebook? Back then it was like, what's Facebook? Why do I need it? It just seems like a waste of time. You ask people, are you advertising on Facebook now? They're either going to say, I've been on Facebook forever and I haven't started yet, or I've been advertising on Facebook for X amount of time. Like that's now. Back then, people were like, I don't even know what Facebook is. So I had to go through the battle of first introducing it to people, then getting them to spend money on a platform they didn't know was even in existence. And that battle was from 2007 to about 2010, because for the first 3 years, people just didn't see the value in it. And it wasn't until someone asked me if I knew what a webinar was, which I did in 2010. And they're like, can you advertise a webinar on Facebook? I'm like, I don't know. Let's just find out. And little did we know that a Facebook ad in 2010 to a webinar would generate, $1 to $2 registrations. And it would freak out the person I was running ads for. I actually still talk to that guy to this day. And he remembers it. It was the heyday. I'd put, $1 in to get a lead. I'd put $20 in. I'd get, 15, 20 leads. And it was magical. It's like, oh my God, got to put in $1,000 this week. And we'd have, 800 to 1,000 people for a webinar. And what's interesting is, obviously it's a lot more difficult to do that now, but the process is still the same. But back then, people just didn't know what could be of value to them running ads on a network like Facebook. And of course, Facebook evolved, right? Then you had the introduction of e-commerce ads on the platform through Teespring, and then you have Shopify comes along, and then WooCommerce decides to start telling people they should sell stuff on Facebook. And so the platform just exploded, I would say, from 2013 to 2016. That's when I noticed my business took the most, it also took the most hits, but it also had the most successes because people were still learning. They were still trying to figure things out. And then Facebook, introduced Business Manager, and they bought Instagram, and like all these things came along so quickly within that 3 to 4 year period that it wasn't really until about 2016 that every person I spoke to was either running ads on Facebook or was looking to start running ads on Facebook. So I went almost 9 years just listening in on people's conversations, trying to figure out whether or not it was something for them. And I remember for 9 years, I had to still convince people that it was worth running their time and effort and money on this platform. And ever since 2016, it has been the easiest sale I've ever had. But for the first 9 years, I was sitting there going, why does no one see the value in this? And so, I had a lot of success early on because I stuck with it. Even when it wasn't my primary service, I stuck with it. I didn't fully transition to Facebook ads until about 2010, 2011, because that's when people finally started to ask questions about it. The right questions. How much can I spend? Where can I spend it? Who can I target? So the first couple of years, no one was asking that. It was just, what's Facebook? Then it became, who can I target? How do I target them? And then around 2015, 2016, it's like, how much can I spend on this platform? What's the most I could spend? And then that's when things got fun. So I've been through all the evolutions of Facebook. I'm going through another evolution of Facebook with all the political stuff going on and the changes to their tracking. But to me, it's always been fun. It's consistently done well for my clients. I've spent well over $100 million in my career now. So it's one of those things where I've seen what works, what doesn't work, who it works best for, and I don't have to waste anyone's time.
Oh man, and so many powerful lessons right there. It's just like the power of persistence, and heck, even that classic saying, it takes 10 years to be an overnight success. It's like you had success yourself, and then for 9 years, you're basically telling folks like, hey, there's this great thing over here. I got this well that's full of water. It's not your ordinary water. And then it's like, all right, now they finally believe you. Now it's like, all right, well, everybody's got a well, and
Yeah,
now it depends on
exactly.
if you have the right bucket.
Exactly.
Yes, indeed. So, with all of your wonderful experience, what do you think should be the first thing that someone does after they figure out their business? They know their why, they know who they want to target.
Mhm.
What do you think should be like the first step they take with that? Should they focus on their copywriting skills, or should there be something else totally different that they should focus on when it comes to putting their ads online?
Yeah, oftentimes I find that the first thing people see is actually the image or the video, not necessarily the copy. Now, you have to consider that obviously you need strong copy if you're running a lot of image ads. Why is that? Because the image can stop you in your tracks, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to get someone to click. So they got to read. And so your headline and your ad copy is going to be very important when you have image ads because, yeah, you got them to stop, but you didn't enforce the click in any way. So your copy needs to be strong enough in order to get the click you're looking for. Not the lead, just the click. The lead doesn't happen until they're there. Now, if you run a video, very different situation. Copy is less important. Why? Because what you verbalize is now being viewed by people who prefer to watch something over read. It's a different person. So oftentimes I tell someone, if you know how to speak better than write, you can speak out what you want to say to these people and then just transcribe the video, and that's your ad copy. Because not everyone's going to listen to the whole video and read. Most people just watch the video and click, or they just read and click. So you could make this whole process very easy for yourself. If you're better on camera, you just speak everything and then you transcribe it. If you are better with writing and you don't like being on camera, well, then you have to have really strong copywriting skills and hope that your image is strong enough to grab someone's attention so they stop and read. I put more emphasis on the creative, which is the image of the video, because, like I said, that's what stops you in your tracks. Copy doesn't stop you in the tracks, the creative does. So if I can't get an offer to grab your attention through my imagery, whether it's me in the picture, someone else, it's bright, it's dark, it doesn't matter. Or if I'm doing a video, am I in a scene that gets you to stop scrolling and actually watch my video? Or am I pointing at the screen or something that gets them to stop? If I put more attention on that, I often find my results are a lot stronger. But copy is still what seals the deal, because copy at the end of the day is the thing that gets them to go, I need that, right? So the video will stop them, you get the click through, they get to your page, and then the headline or your sub headline or the bullet points you write are what seals the deal for them to go, I need this. Whether it's a freebie, like a lead magnet, or they're registering for a webinar, or they're gonna book a call with you, your copy is what gets them to take that next step. So for an ad, focus on your creative first, and for everything else, that's when your copy will kick in.
That's what I'm talking about. So the 1-2 punch, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And that's pretty solid right there. And it's so darn true, because it's like, yeah, images usually stick out a lot further than words ever will. Like, heck, even words make people dizzy. Like, that's I like freaking with emails and
Yep.
text messages that are like 5 pages long. Like, oh God, no, I'm in Mars. No, get back to Earth. Yay, here's a cat video. All right, I'm back on Earth.
Exactly. But not all distraction is good distraction, right? Just because I could distract you for a moment in the middle of your conversation to look at my ads and go through my presentation or my webinar or download my product doesn't necessarily mean that you're the right person, right? So it's what level of distraction are you putting in front of these people? Because that's really what you're doing, is you're distracting them from whatever they were doing previously. They could have been having a conversation in Messenger. They could have been having a conversation in someone else's thread. And all of a sudden your ad pops up and you've distracted them from that so that they pay attention to you. So you have to make sure that whatever communication or conversation you're looking to create with this person is actually someone you want to converse with, not just on your email list, but in your ads, and maybe they buy something of yours. Like, this has to be someone that is going to be clear as day your ideal client or customer. So remember, you put out some outlandish ads just because they're super colorful and it's, cats shooting lasers out of their hands. Yeah, that's cool. It's funny. It gets a lot of shares, but it may not be that the quality of people coming from that type of ad are the ones you actually want to work with.
That's a darn good point. I love that you mentioned level of distraction. So it's like you have to put some effort and some thought into what you want to put out there, like image and video wise, with the ad you're doing. Because it's like, yeah, you're right. Like a funny video of cats shooting lasers, like that would be freaking awesome if folks would share it, but they may not be the client you're looking for.
Exactly. And so oftentimes I'll take the hit on a click-through rate, meaning I'll pay more for a click if it'll get me a higher quality individual. So for example, I don't follow anyone, whether it's pages or groups or anything, where the entire community was just built upon memes or funny content in exchange for, my email or my phone number. I look for things of quality, right? Is it going to impact me or my family in any way? So I have no problem paying myself $2 or $3 for a click in order to get someone like me, because I know that they'll pay a higher dollar for someone to be more serious and impactful on what it is that I'm delivering to them, right? I'm teaching people about advertising. I'm running ads for people. I don't need to joke around all day. Let me just tell you what to do. You get it done, you get results. So I'll pay $3 for a click if it's going to get me someone like that, because I also know they'll spend more money and they'll stay longer because they just want to work with someone who takes this stuff serious. Of course, we can still joke around, but the reason why that they came to me was because they're like, this guy gets it, knows what he's doing. He's a straight shooter. He doesn't BS. And unfortunately, a lot of lists and groups and things of that nature are built upon the BS because they know it grabs attention. I don't care if a lead costs $1. I'll pay $20 for a lead if it only takes me 3 leads to get a customer.
That's what I'm talking about right there, because it's so darn true. It's like, really, what are you really building your business on? Like, you got to have a good foundation, and if the bricks are really just wooden blocks, then that's probably not a good idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So, my goodness, this is freaking awesome. This is freaking awesome. So, my goodness, man. So, with all this wonderful experience, is there a question that you wish you'd be asked more often when you're in this wonderful space of podcasting, when you're on the guest side of the game?
Well, funny enough, a lot of people still ask, what's the best way to get started? But no one has asked me, what's the best approach to scaling? There's 2 different methodologies there. Starting is actually the hardest part in the very beginning because a lot of us want to start something and we never actually start it, whether it's exercise or starting a business or starting a podcast, whatever it may be. Starting is the hardest part because you just have to overcome the fear of doing that action consistently. Doing it once is cool, but can you do it 100 times? And so once you overcome that part, the next question becomes, how do I scale these efforts? And what's weird is no one ever asks me that. Everyone's always asking about starting. I understand that's the hard part, but what happens once you've already started? Where's the other people? And there's tons of people who've already started and been doing this for a while. And so I find that, at least for me, some of the best people I work with are the ones that are asking that question of, okay, I'm on track for doing great things, but how do I take this to the next level? How do I scale it? How do I do 10x this? Because those are the ones who clearly have set their foundation, they know what they want, and they have a goal and a forecast to achieve it. Those are some of the best people to work with. You don't only have to work with people just starting, or if you want to call them newbies, you can call them that. I mean, even I have started brand new businesses and I've had to start completely from scratch and go, where do I even begin? But the thing is because I've done this before, it's a lot easier to get past that roadblock of starting. So I'm always looking for people to work with who are asking me those questions as well, because I ask those questions. I'm like, cool, I've already done this thing. How do I take it to the next level? And oftentimes the ones that respond to that type of question from me are also great candidates for people to work with me on the advertising side, outside of anything else I'm doing. So if you are someone who is starting something out, you should also be thinking of, how do I take this to the next level? How do I take this from $1,000 a month to 10? How do I take this from $100 a month to $1,000 a month, right? Look at how you can 5, 10, 20x your results, and what questions do you need to ask in order to get there? If you're only asking about the first part, which is most people are just like, how do I make $1,000 a month? Well, in reality, you got to think about all the other stuff that goes into place to make 100. You're just starting. Once you've made 100 and you figured out how to make 100 consistently, now you're asking the scaling questions. How do I take this from 100 to 1,000? How do I take this from 1,000 to 10,000? That's when things really start to make sense. And those, hopefully I'd start getting more questions around that, because that's where it's really the most fun, is talking about how to take things from point A to B to C to D. And it's not just about spending money. Oftentimes it could be, how do I build a team? How do I build an advertising process that I don't have to be involved with? How do I create more content on other sites without having to actually sit down every day and create a bunch of content? All these questions come up from people who've made it past step 1, which is just getting started.
That's a good point, because there's so many folks out there who are new to just all of this. And they're like, oh man, how the heck do I get started? And it's like, all right, it's like the white belts are great to be around, but where are the purple belts? Where are like the brown and close to black belts here? Like, gotta hang around them for a bit. And it's so true. After a while, it's like, all right, let me get around folks who actually want to scale. So what do you think might be the point where someone should just decide to scale? I mean, because at the beginning, it's like, yeah, you should definitely focus on getting started and eventually find a way to scale after a while. When do you think that point might be in someone's business? Do you think it may be a timetable of months, like if they've done this for about a year or 2 years, or is
I
it
think
something else?
now things could be done a lot sooner, right? When I first started, I didn't look at anything in less than, like, I had to do at least a year before I would even ask those questions. And I didn't have funnel builders and easy ad platforms to run ads on. Like all the stuff you have today is almost like shortcuts. So when I look at platforms being built, and I can build a ClickFunnels funnel in a day, and I can run ads on Facebook within 20 minutes, and I could build an entire apparel brand in 3 hours on Gear Bubble. Like when I look at all these things that didn't exist even 5 years ago, I often look at it as, well, if I'm usually giving something a year before I move on and decide if it's worth continuing, I'm already ahead of most people in this game, because a lot of people right now are seeing results from others where it's like in 3 to 6 months. Because yes, you can achieve a result a lot faster, but you can also fail faster now. You don't have to be as lenient with your time as you used to be, even just a couple of years ago. So if you are someone just starting, oftentimes I'd say if you talk to someone like myself, or you talk to someone who's maybe a mentor of yours, or maybe you find someone who's in the same business, but they're doing exponentially better than you, and you're like, I want to be like them, even if it's just 1/10 of their results, there's nothing wrong with asking questions like, where would you start if you were trying to get to $1,000 a month? Or where would you start if you're trying to get to $500 a month? Because they might give you a piece of advice or two that gets you there. And then once they see that you're doing something, the level of strategy and tactic and coaching you get from these people changes. It evolves, right? Because in order to get from 0 to 500 is one way, but to go from 500 to 1,000 is another, right? Every time you're looking to grow that number, the process changes. So if you're digging into something new, give it 6 to 12 months. Don't quit so quickly, because a lot of people do. Because like I said, in today's day and age, it's like everyone's teaching others that if you can't do something in 3 to 6 months, you're not cut out for it. I'm like, I went 5 years before I really started to make anything happen, but I kept going, right? So if you're someone who's willing to stick with the process and trust the process, then you're going to be doing great anyway. But then it's a matter of being led to where that promised land is for you, right? And working with people who are actually giving you step-by-step help. Now, am I a good fit for everyone to do that? No, I'm not. If it's an ad agency, I know where to help you. But a lot of that is based around branding. It's not, just because you're an ad agency doesn't mean you have to run ads to get clients. You just have to be well positioned, and you have to have a great network, and you have to prove results. And you prove results by just getting the first client. So I'm great with that. But if someone said, hey, how do you build a content site that makes $10,000 a month and all you do is write 3 pieces of content a day? It's like, nah, you're talking to the wrong guy. That's not me. There's someone else who's done that, probably makes hundreds of thousands a month, and has a team of 7 doing all the work for him or her. So you have to be able to identify who's the one who could lead you to that promised land that you've always wanted to create. But then you have to incrementally build up the questions that you know will get you to where you want to be. It's not, how do I get to 10,000 a month? You don't start with that. That's not where you're at. You haven't even made 5. So if you haven't made it, if you haven't made $100 yet, ask them like, hey, what was the first thing you did that helped you make your first $100 online? Oh, I put out an affiliate link and someone bought my product. Do you suggest I do affiliate marketing? And then they might actually tell you no, or they might say yes. And here's some suggestions around that. Right. And then once you make 100, 300, $500, you can go back to them and show them your results and say, hey, I followed your word. Everything worked out. I'm curious, like, how'd you take it from $500 to 3,000 a month? And as they see you evolve, trust me, they'll help you a lot more, because there's nothing better to a coach, a business owner, or anything like that than seeing someone that they gave advice to achieve success, because that success story also helps them in their business. So they want to see you succeed. You just got to follow through. So as you can see, the circle, the vicious circle of this whole thing is like, you got to find someone who's even at the path that you want to take, but then you actually have to be honest with yourself and start asking the questions that'll get you to that point. Don't start asking about making 100 grand a month if you've never made 1,000. You need to first figure out how to get to 1,000.
Oh man, my man's preaching, baby. That's what I'm talking about, baby. That's right, leaving those business delights left behind, baby. That's what I'm talking about, indeed. Because it's so solid. It's like folks may focus on the money, the main things. Like, yeah, I know you got to feed your kids, family, and everything, but it's like at least try to take those steps forward. It's like, hey, even with thinking big, it's like, hey, at least set some goals towards the big goal and make that magic happen. And heck, even finding the right mentor too, because heck, even you had to do that. You invested so much into learning while you're in college, and it's paid off now down the road.
Exactly. And remember, if you treat this a lot like many of us who went through the university or college path, they tell you it's 4 years, right? Some people do it in 3, some people do it in 5. Everyone has a different path, right? But we're all still on that same path of achieving that end goal, which in college is usually just get your degree. Whatever, degree you decide to get is up to you, but we're all on that same path of walking the stage. So if you would attach it to how you got your education, or even if you just got a high school diploma, it's still 4 years. If you treat it like that, it's like, hey, a real education in most cases is 4 years. If you're going to go into business, are you looking to do it for at least 4 years? Because maybe you'll graduate and figure things out from there. That's how I approached all this stuff. I'm already in year 14. I've been through 3.5 graduations now. Like, that's the way I look at it. Like, every time I look at it that way, it's like, okay, I got my next degree. I got another degree in this. Because if I look at every 4 years, the business has evolved dramatically every time. I actually look at it in cycles of 7 because my mentor told me that every 7 years, at least in his business, he always had a dramatic shift. That dramatic shift was either everything crashed and burned and had to be rebuilt, or everything was at such a point of scale that it exploded upwards and he either sold the business or built a bigger team or finally had freedom or whatever it was. I'm in my second version of that. I'm in year 14. I'm in the second cycle of 7. My first cycle, everything crashed and burned and I rebuilt it. I'm having my second cycle be where everything's exponentially better than before. So there's all sorts of ways you could look at this. You could look at it every year. I look at it in 4 years and I look at it in 7 years. I've had multiple graduations, but I've also had different cycles of life. So if you can handle something in multiple years and not just look at it as, if this doesn't work in 6 months, I'm screwed, you're going to be successful because you got to stick with it. Most of these entrepreneurs who are worth tens of millions or hundreds of millions or billions of dollars did not figure it out in a year. Even the guy who built Instagram and had it bought by Mark Zuckerberg did not develop Instagram in a year and become a billionaire. It took years. And then he got very lucky because he had a software and technology that was built perfectly for Facebook. And he was able to sell it and move on with his life. But it took him years to come up with the concept, a lot of money, investors, you name it. And then all that work paid off.
Yes, sir, indeed. Work paying off indeed. And I just love that analogy. It's like, oh, I've had 3 graduations already. And it's like the whole 7-year cycle, sometimes 4-year cycles of just graduating. And with all of that, I'm pretty sure there's been some adversity you had to deal with, especially in business. So any tips for folks out there who may be starting or heck, maybe even been at this for a while, tips on to keep themselves focused and avoid burnout and keep themselves at a high performance state?
Yeah, I mean, burnout's a real thing. So keep in mind, burnout can be from too many days in a row or too many months in a row of lack of sleep. It could be that you're losing motivation because you're not seeing results. Oftentimes, it's what's the greater goal for you? Because I'm motivated by the fact that I have a 1-year-old son. So if you told me every day that I had to lose 2 hours of sleep in order to provide for him, I wouldn't even hesitate. I'd be like, great, I'll sleep 4 hours a night. That's fine with me. Whatever I got to do to put food on the table for him. Like, that motivates me. If I can look at my kid every day of the week and go, I'm doing this for him, I'm motivated. Now, other people don't have kids or they don't have a wife or a girlfriend. So for them, it's all on them to make the decision that they want to achieve a goal. And that goal could be that they're going to do it for their mom, their dad, themselves. Maybe someone when they were younger said they would be a failure. Like, what is that thing that's going to fire you up every day where you can do this process regardless of whether or not you're successful in their terms of success, so that you're able to continue to do it until it finally hits the goal you want to achieve. I didn't have someone saying I couldn't make something work. My main thing was I was self-motivated. I was self-motivated because I told myself I would never have a job. I didn't want one. I wanted to have my own thing. And so that was enough motivation for me to go, if I got to get a job temporarily just to put food on the table, that's fine. But I'm still going to work on this business until it makes me enough to not have a job. And I was always motivated by that. I was motivated at 18 to not have a job. And I was in college where everyone's telling you get a degree and get a job. I was the guy going, I'm getting a degree as a backup plan. And even then I don't even use it. So, it was a $40,000 backup plan. But the point is that, I took that opportunity to realize that I was so motivated by being an entrepreneur that I had a full workload in college, 18 credits a semester, did online work freelancing just to make ends meet, and still built an agency. Still built it on maybe 4 hours of sleep a day for 4 years. If you're not committed like that, then you're not motivated to have a business. You're not motivated to be an entrepreneur because it's going to happen. I'm not saying you don't need to sleep. I'm just saying you got to find something that works for you and something that keeps you motivated to keep going. And luckily now, not only do I have a wife, I have a kid. So for me, it's like I'm super motivated just by the family side. I don't need anything else anymore. There's no external thing like I want to buy this car. I want to get this house. Yeah, everyone has that even when they're 50. But to me, that's nothing. Now it's like I need to make sure that when I'm 50 and my kid is 18, 19, that he's taken care of. And if I have another kid, that they're taken care of. And that if anything happens to me, my wife's taken care of. That's motivated to me. I'm motivated by that. So you got to find out like what's the thing that's going to light the fire under your ass every day when you're working that you'll keep going. And if you had to sacrifice sleep for a day, you don't complain about it because you're like, I know what the end goal is going to be. And you don't have to lose sleep like Gary Vee and Grant Cardone, and they all say you don't have to sleep an hour a day. You can,
Please don't.
don't. You can get your 8 hours. You can get your 7. Thankfully, I know my body operates on 6. I've had plenty of years in a row where I found out that 6, I can be good enough to do my thing. 7, I'm optimal. 8 is too much. I found that out from me. So all I need is 6 to 7 every day, and I'm running on all cylinders. If I get 8, I actually start off slow. You start to find these things out when you're an entrepreneur because your schedule's all over the place. Some days you're working over the weekend. Some days you're not. Some days you sleep 10 hours. You're like, why do I still feel so bad? And then there's days you sleep for 4 hours and you're like, man, I feel fantastic. It's going to be all over the place. But guess what? You're going to need to go through it because if you're motivated towards a goal, you got to feel all the emotions. What it's like to have a prospect say no to you, what it's like to have no one buy your course, and what it's like for people on YouTube or Facebook to talk crap about you when you record some content. It's going to happen. You just got to keep going. What's the motivation? So to bring it all around, if you're starting out, it's not about finding your why. Everyone says that. It's finding your why is essentially what are you motivated for and about, and who are you motivated by? At the end of the day, my why is my kid and my wife. But at the end of the day, I also look at it as my why is not the financial freedom. It's creating a legacy that my family can live upon in the future and create generational wealth. That's what I am doing this for. That when I pass, everyone goes, man, that David guy was amazing. He built this massive empire for his family and basically created the next version of the Rockefellers. That's what I'm trying to create over here. That my family can do whatever the hell they want for the rest of their lives. I'm doing the work for them so they can have an enjoying and not just enjoying time of their life, but like they could do whatever they want. They want to build the next nonprofit that saves people. Great. They want to build a business that impacts the tech sector. Great. But they didn't have to think about going to college and doing anything. They carved their own path. How do you do that? Well, I set you up financially. So now you could think about all the creative things you want to do. Here you go. That's my motivation. So you need something like that, because if you don't have something like that, well, you'll lose your motivation within a couple months.
So true indeed. So true indeed. And now I know somebody, the Schlossfellers. There we go. That's what I was talking about.
Never thought of it that way. But yes.
Oh, man. But yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Definitely got to find something that light a fire under your butt every day. And heck, even got to set yourself on fire so the world can watch you burn with passion as you take on the world and light the world and keep the world from getting too dark.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So yes, indeed, we're coming down to the magical question that every guest gets to receive. And that is, if you're to wake up tomorrow and you were 25 again, but this time in the year of 2021 with all of your knowledge and experience, what advice would you give to yourself?
Start spending money on your brand immediately. And I know this because when I was 25, my entire business fell apart. That was the first iteration of everything. It burned down. Now, when I look at it in hindsight, it was burning down intentionally. But I thought I was doing everything in my capacity to not have it burn down. I'm glad it did, though. So when everything fell apart and I rebuilt it, the business came back stronger by tenfold. Getting clients was not a problem. My processes worked. So if I were 25 all over again, considering all the stuff that's out now, technology-wise, the coaches and mentors out there that can help you achieve the results you want, I would be spending money on building my email list immediately. And I wish I started a lot sooner, because those people who follow you and engage with you and go from, I wouldn't say business opportunity to business opportunity, but they see how you evolve, right? Maybe your service went from just doing one ad platform to three. Maybe you have one course that's evolved now and it's in 3 courses. Like, those people will be with you every step of the way, as long as you are providing something of value to them. And if I had started building my list 6, 7 years ago, I don't even know where my business would be today, but I know it'd be probably 3 times bigger than it is right now, because I started building my list late. And I didn't build my list when Facebook was really cheap. And I didn't even build my list when people were saying Facebook was expensive in 2016. And it really wasn't. It was still cheap. And so I look at it now, and if you're starting now, guess what, everyone? Ads are cheap again. Why? Because everyone's still panicking. Every time there's panic, the platform becomes cheap again. That's actually a good thing. When the market shows fear, you buy. When the market shows that everyone's buying, you wait. It's that simple. It's that simple. And this is the year where people are still fearful. People are putting way too much opinions into what's actually out there, and they're not looking at the stats. And the stats say, build your list, focus on the brand, because if the platform disappears, you go elsewhere. But at least you built the list with the platform that you know works while it's still here. So I definitely would have started building a list a lot sooner, and probably would have bought a lot more real estate back then too. if I was, back when I was 25. But in today's age, I would say invest more in your personal brand. Get your content out onto multiple networks. I'm not saying go crazy on every network, but I focus a lot on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. I have a podcast as well. But the main thing is that content, when it's put out in one way, is segmented into 4 ways that works for those platforms, right? So when I build a podcast, it works for YouTube, it works for Facebook, it works for Instagram. I make sure it works for each platform in its own unique way. So when I create one piece, I look at how do I turn it into 4, and it makes the process a lot easier. And it also lets me be more out there, because like I said, if a platform disappeared today, I would still be okay with the others. So if you haven't already done that because you're so focused on one thing, well, guess what? Now we're in the day and age where you got to focus on more than one. I used to always tell people, focus on the one thing, focus on the one thing. There's a whole book about the one thing. But in reality, in today's age, if I only go all in on Facebook and I stay with Facebook and Facebook disappears in 5 years, I'm going to be stuck, because who's going to know me on these other platforms? Because I hadn't been building them. I'm not trying to be an influencer. I just want people to know that I'm there. So if you haven't started putting your attention on other platforms, especially YouTube, if you're not putting any attention on YouTube, what are you doing? So definitely put more attention on other platforms, definitely spend more on my brand, and build an email list. And that alone can build a 7-figure business.
My man's helping folks create a tennis bracelet of wisdom today with this episode, baby. That's what I'm talking about. Yes, indeed. Invest in your personal brand now. Build your email list now. Because, heck, you were so right, man. Heck, even I think it was a couple days ago, one Facebook group was like, hey, subscribe to my email list in case Facebook does something stupid and destroys my group because someone makes a political post. So, yeah, it's crazy out here, man. It's definitely crazy out here. Heck, even the turning the one piece of content into 4, like, dude, like that's freaking true and amazing. It's something that we all need to focus on if that's your lane of thought and your lane in business too. So my goodness, my man Dave's been leaving a delightful tennis bracelet of wisdom, baby. That's right, indeed. So for those who want to get more of your wisdom and turn into a belly dancer skirt of wisdom, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you, man?
Yeah, so I'm actually very easy to get a hold of, so long it's within reasoning, right? So
I've been
if
waiting for
you,
someone to respond like that.
yeah, anyone can hit me up. Doesn't mean I'm going to answer. But if you want to work with me or do any sort of consulting, I always recommend that you email me directly, because I actually see it, right? So if you want to have your ads done for you, or you want some consulting on improving your ads, not coaching, consulting, you still have to do the work. It's david@convertroi.com. If you want to learn how to do all this by yourself and either build a team of media buyers or just improve your own knowledge on how to run ads, you can go to clicksconversionsclients.com. It's a course that I built on every detail I know about running ads on Facebook and Instagram. Everything from beginning to end. If you're a newbie, there's plenty of newbie stuff in there. If you're intermediate or advanced, There's plenty of advanced stuff in there too. And it's constantly updated. Anytime the platform's updated, I update it. Anytime I get information from my rep about the platform, it's added in there. It's a whole series called Direct from My Rep. And, it's basically the supplemental way that you can work with me. If you end up not doing consulting or done for you work, the only other way you really get to communicate with me is when you're in the course, because the people that I talk to every day are clients and customers. I talk to them all the time. So if you want to have any sort of hand holding in this process of running ads, those are the two ways that you get to have that, whether it's having it done for you or, buying the course. And then, if you just want to connect and see what's up, you could search my name, David Schloss, on Facebook and Instagram, verified on both platforms so you could find me pretty easily. And I'll be releasing a lot of stuff all throughout the year and into the future on both those platforms.
Woohoo! Well, there you have it, folks. Reach out to the debonair Dave himself, baby. Check out all of his wares if you're looking for an ad agency. Like, check out this man's stuff. Check out his course content. Check out his book, The New MBA, baby, because you're learning from a guy who's actually been in business for 13 plus years, folks, who's actually doing it and not just behind the desk, just preaching some random nonsense that doesn't make any sense. So, any parting words before we close up shop, my man?
Yeah, if you're looking to get in business or improve your business, just remember it takes practice, patience, and persistence. If you don't have those three things in your mind and your soul and your business, it's going to be a very tough road. So remember, everything takes those three elements to truly make it, and just stay as consistent in what you're doing, all throughout the process. Don't give up. Make sure you're doing it for yourself, those around you, your family, your friends, and just keep yourself motivated, because all it takes is one ad, one funnel, one network. It's one thing. All it takes is that one thing, and all of a sudden, everything starts to work.
How's it going, you super special, awesome human? Since you made it to the end of this episode, it looks like you really enjoyed yourself. Since you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with at least 3 people in your network and tell them what you really liked about this episode. Heck, even shoot myself or the guest an email and let them know what you liked most about this interview, so that way they can stay inspired to keep pushing out great work.